Ayres took the time and the effort to take young people and nurture them and teach them and school them in the department store way, the tradition of Ayres, and then keep us. And because we were trained, they had vested time in us.
The people of Ayres to me are all the different faces, the faces I still see now in so many different walks of life, and remember them as, you know, someone who is in the beauty salon, or someone who is behind the counter, you know, in cosmetics, or, you know, just not necessarily the people who worked in my department, but faces that you remember. It was a pretty big happy family for the most part. It really was.
The culture, it was what made Ayres, at least, well, I don't think just for me. I know many people feel this way. The culture was so unique in terms of being collegial, supportive, and yet very competitive. People were not afraid to get in a fight about something they really believed in, but when the discussion was over, they were on the same team.
To an extent, Ayres was much like a family. That is, everybody had the other guy's back, but it was contentious and competitive as all get out internally, and you were always doing your best to get your share or more of the resources in order to you know, drive your business. There were some names that carried big reputations, but the guys that I knew when I went there, it was a phenomenal management team.
Ayres had this wonderful institution for years and years of the guest book, and you would write your name and the time you got there and a note to a friend. So say if I got there a half hour before my friend Betty, we came from 2 different parts of town, I would say, I'm up in the sheet music, or wherever I was going to be, and then she would come in and see that I was there and go up and meet me.
Of course, first it would start with the family, and how they had set up the running of that exquisite store, and the customer and employee relationships that they developed throughout the stores, and through all of their stores, I'm sure. I think everyone who worked there had this sense of community, I really do, and loyalty to the store. I think we all were very proud to represent Ellis Ayres and Company.
One of the models and I went on down the street and found a Christmas tree and brought it back and set it up in the model's room. And Mr. Ayres liked that. He came down and checked that out. He used to come every morning to see who was there and what was being shown. He was very interested, really, in the fabrics and the clothes that were being shown.
Mr. Ayres would call me, and occasionally, and he'd say something like, Kathy, I'm going to be in the market on Wednesday. May I come with you? Are you kidding me? Mr. Ayres is asking if he can come with me. Well, of course he can come with me. I mean, I'm thrilled, and I'm complimented that this wonderful man wants to go spend some time with me in the market.
I was hired by Ayres, and my principal thing with Ayres was, can one move forward in this company based on merit? Yes, the company honored those folks who produced and performed well and would move them along, and I then took my risk to say, okay, I'm going to accept their opportunity and go to work here, and that all turned out swell, just to be terrific.
We also did a fashion show, Date at 11, which was 9 o'clock show for employees, and that show was to inform the employees what the direction would be and what we're showing. So for the week of, this is what we're selling, and if you had customers asking about it, they would have an idea of what was going on. At 11 o'clock, we would repeat that show, and that's when the public would come in and watch Date at 11. That was a big show every week, because the folks would come in to find out what's new at Ayres. How do I do this? How do I accessorize that? What's the trends? What's new colors? So it was an education for them also.
The elevator operators were absolutely wonderful people. The kindest hearts, the nicest people. I'd get on the elevator. They were all dressed, and they furnished them with uniforms so they would look really well. And the uniforms were, I never wore a cream-colored shirtwaist dress with a belt, with buttons up the front. And I noticed, but I don't know if a lot of people noticed this or not, but all the buttons had an A on it for Ayres.
The high school board was made up of a representative from each high school around the city. And they put on fashion shows, and we had monthly meetings. Elizabeth Patrick was the fashion director at that time. So I got to experience Elizabeth Patrick, and I would put it that way, it was an experience, and a good one.
If I had to spend 40 years of my life someplace, I am so glad it was at Ayres. It was a home away from home for me and a lot of other people I know who worked there and missed it terribly when it was gone. And I think all of Indianapolis missed Ayres when it was gone.